Welcome into our Saints post-game show. Unfortunately, the Saints end with the loss 30-22 to Los Angeles. It is going to be a long plane ride home, unfortunately, because of that. However, they did continue to fight in this one. They were down 30-7 in the fourth quarter and close it to a one-score game.
Yeah.
What was the turning point in this one, Scott?
I think right before halftime, the Saints were driving. There was a key 3rd and 5. Chris couldn't quite come up with it. And Chris had a tremendous game tonight. 13 targets, 9 catches. He was outstanding on the offense side of the ball. But that drop and then not making the 4th down, you saw this whole swing of that game change because it could have been tied 10-10. Maybe Saints were leading 14-10 if they scored a touchdown there. But instead, after that play, the Rams go down and score at 17-7. And you could start to feel that gap widen a little bit, especially with the Rams getting the ball coming out of halftime. So that wasn't the only play, but it was just one of those things that stuck out in my mind from a turning point early in the game.
Sure. Scott, Shanle, Erin Summers here. We're going to send it over to LA where John DeShazier is on hand. John, we just talked about the moment right before halftime. What stood out to you as an area, a moment in this game that the Saints didn't maybe capitalize on?
Well, I think Scott named it perfectly. I mean, you're talking about essentially 4 turnovers. You're talking about not converting on 3 4th downs and the interception. All of those are short field situations where you give the ball back to an offense that you're having difficulty stopping, and you're not generating a whole lot of offense yourself early in the game. And so, the Saints put themselves behind it early, 30-7, made it a nice little comeback to make it a respectable score. But I mean, this didn't seem to be a very close game from early in this game because they were able to unable to convert on the 4th down, especially late in the half when there was an opportunity to go into halftime 10-7. Instead, they go into halftime 17-7, and they're really facing an uphill battle the rest of the game. So, I agree totally with Scott. It's hard to narrow it down to a play, but certainly there were some big plays, and especially on 4th down when you don't convert and you're not able to do it on the road, and you get yourself in a big hole, and next thing you know, you're trying to come back, and it's just hard to do that anywhere, but especially on the road, Erin.
Yeah, JD mentioned a couple of moments there, and it's interesting because early on in the game, the Saints decided to go for it on 4th down and back-to-back drives and couldn't convert. And those were also moments where there was 2 sacks, the only 2 sacks that the offense allowed, and then that penalty on Landon Young that moved them back to 3rd and 20. So there were a couple moments early, maybe a couple mistakes. What did you see in the way that the offense was just handling the game early?
Well, not enough trips into the red zone. There were some explosive plays throughout the game in the entirety, but you would get past the 50 and then you would stall in between the 50 and the 20. You couldn't quite get into those areas where you're close enough to kick field goals. And so I know a lot of people probably had an issue with the 4th downs, but I think going into this game, you saw early in the game that our coaches, Dennis and the staff, said there's going to be points needed to be scored in this game. The Rams have a really good core of receivers. They have a really good quarterback. They have a great play caller. And he was trying to put points on the board.
They were being aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at times this year they haven't been aggressive enough. So I had no problem with it because they needed to score points against the Rams. You want the defense to stand up and not give up a touchdown right for halftime, hopefully kick a field goal or make them punt. But like right there, you try a long field goal and miss it, they get the ball at midfield. Or what do? You punt the ball and it goes to the end zone and you get net 20 yards. So I didn't have a problem with that. Obviously, you want to see them convert, but I love the aggressive mindset going into this game.
Well, after seeing them drive down the field 95 yards for their first touchdown, that had to have been in the back of their minds. They clearly can move the ball.
Yeah.
So why? I mean, they're going to give it to them right there at the goal line. Might as well try to go for it.
I agree. I think going into the game, you never know how a game's going to play out until you get into it. But it was probably their worst fear, realizing the Rams go right down the field on them. And now you're sitting there saying, as a defensive coach, okay, we don't like our matchups with this versus this guy. They have 2 really good receivers. They have an all-pro quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback who has lots of records and throwing for a ton of yards in this league. We have to score points. So your mindset changes immediately as a coach. And maybe if they don't score in that opening drive and maybe if they didn't look like they were clicking, you play a little bit more conservative. But there was no doubt from early onset in this game that you were going to have to score points to win this game.
It took a while for them to involve running back Alvin Kamara. I mean, Jamal Williams, they tried to get to him too, but it kind of seemed like it happened towards the end of the game. And I don't necessarily remember seeing Taysom Hill much in this one either. I mean, what was missing or what wasn't working with that run game?
Yeah, the biggest difference in this game, if you look at it, at the end of the game when you just start to compare numbers and you go down, the time of possession was owned by the Rams. They ran the ball much better, over 4 yards per carry. The Saints were 16 carries for 37 yards, so they averaged 2 yards a carry. You're not going to win many football games that way, but a lot of it is the game got out of control earlier than I think they wanted to. 17-7 in the NFL, you can still run the football, but not when they get the ball coming out of halftime. And if that lead starts to pull away like they were, you're not going to be able to run as much Taysom package. You're not going to be able to turn around and hand the ball off to Alvin Kamara as much. But, yeah, I would love to see Alvin get a little bit more involved in the passing game. Tonight you saw some routes. Chris ran that route out of the backfield. Those are normally routes you like to see Alvin against their linebackers run. But, no, the running game really died because of the way the game was played and how fast the game pulled away from. So.
Sure. You mentioned Chris Olave, wide receiver, making his return in this game. He had a good day. He was over 100 yards. However, there were key moments where you wished he would have been able to make a catch.
Yeah.
Do you think he was affected at all by injury or just kind of getting back into the rhythm of the game?
Yeah, I think definitely. It's getting back into the rhythm of the game. But, you know, for missing time and coming back, and you look at the targets, obviously going into the game, Pete Carmichael and the offensive staff said Chris is going to be our guy. 13 targets and 9 catches. I mean,
he was working.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the
he did
sure.
his part offensively. Him. And you look at the numbers across from him with Puka Nacua, they were the two same players. You look at the quarterback stats, they kind of evened out in the end. It really came down to the running game and the turnover battle. I said last week, for this team to win the division and to get in the playoffs, I think the key is the defense has to take the ball away. And if you don't take the ball away, you don't give your offense enough opportunities. And so you lost a turnover battle tonight. It was only by one, but still, in a game like this, every turnover matters.
Yeah, I mean, JD said it. He kind of counted them as 4 because of the turnovers on downs and then the interception. So it was tough because you know that you're going up against a very potent offense and you want to be able to capitalize on any mistake and do something in your favor. It happened at the end of the game, but special teams did show up with the blocked punt. JT Gray gave the Saints another opportunity. It's just some of these little things you wish would have happened in the first half of the game.
Oh, absolutely. A big play like that changed everything. And you saw when all 3 phases show up, special teams, you can win a lot of games with 2/3 of phases. Sometimes your offense doesn't work, sometimes your defense doesn't work, but special teams comes up, you get a short field, and then right away you take a shot, touchdown. And I think that was one of the encouraging things is the explosive plays, taking shots down the field was really working tonight. And, you know, I think there's no such thing as moral victories in the NFL, but this team does not quit battling.
Yeah.
Down 21-0 to the Detroit Lions. There's a ton of fight in these guys. There's a ton of fight in the locker room. And so you don't get that you think just because guys are in professional sports and they're getting paid that's what they're supposed to. A lot of teams like that, down 30-7 or whatever the score, they would say, all right, let's get on to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And so ton of fight, and you got to give the guys credit, just came up short.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the emotion towards the end of the game. They definitely still cared. They wanted to get the win. They were fighting for it. You mentioned the 35-yard touchdown to A.T. Perry in the fourth quarter, but there was a longer one to Rashid Shaheed that was 45 yards early in the game. We knew that was an area that the Rams were vulnerable in their secondary. Why didn't we see more shots?
Yeah, I think just like they had some mismatches with their wide receivers, and Cooper Kupp he was honestly off tonight. He dropped a lot of balls, and he didn't look like himself, so that kind of saved the Saints a little bit. But I really feel like tonight's matchup was the wide receiver core versus the other secondary, and that was the advantage. But, yeah, I think a couple more shots, especially to Rashid. They don't have anybody who can run with him, and they played a lot of single high safety. And on that play, if you saw it, the single high safety jumped at the short route. It was a great play design. It was everything you wanted, and it was a beautiful ball by Derek. And then you talked about after the block punt, I love the aggressive mindset. Hey, we're just going for it right now. And you scored fast, and you gave your team hope, and then obviously the 2-point conversion. Now you really have hope.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they go for an onside kick, don't get that, and so the Rams are able to get a couple first downs, and that was the game at the end. There's so many moments in this game that you wish you could have just been like, oh, why couldn't this or that happened? Yep. What was giving the defense such fits early in this game?
It was that dynamic duo. I mean, Kupp didn't play as well as he dropped a lot of passes. Puka Nacua is the real deal. I mean, it didn't matter who was covering him. It didn't matter if it was man or if it was zone. He was still finding a way to make catches and make plays. And Stafford's playing like he's 10 years younger. I mean, he was
making some phenomenal passes.
Absolutely. I always laugh because, Patrick Mahomes gets all the credit for all these, sidearm off-platform throws. And I made a joke. Stafford's been doing that. Stafford was like the originator of that in 2009 when he was the first overall draft pick. He's always been an outstanding thrower of the football. He was just stuck on some Detroit teams up there. I really think their ability to stay balanced, they could throw the ball, but then when they started to get chunk plays in the running game, that's when I started to say, uh-oh. Because now you open up that entire offense to running, passing, play action, and it's tough to stop offenses.
Yeah, Kyron Williams has definitely been a problem for a lot of other teams this season as well. He got into the end zone, was a part of the reason why they had 133 yards on the ground. Head coach Dennis Allen is now approaching the podium, so we'll send it over there.
Thought defensively, I thought they got after us pretty good. We didn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And, even at the times that we did, I thought, look, you got to give those guys a lot of credit because I thought they played outstanding on offense. I kind of knew going into this game that it was going to be a challenge, and I knew Matthew Stafford was playing really good, but, I don't think we played the way we needed to play either. I thought there was too many times where we talked a lot about, eye candy, early in the week, and I thought it affected us on some plays. So we certainly have to be better. I got to do a better job with those guys. Offensively, I felt like we moved the ball again, and I felt like there were some opportunities that we just didn't take advantage of. Potential, conversions, keep drives alive. I just felt like there was too many missed opportunities offensively. The first drive, we're moving the ball well and, end up turning the ball over on downs when we had a, pretty good drive going. So anyway, I'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, what went into the decision to go for it on fourth down and later in the first half?
Yeah, so, we went for it twice on fourth down, I think, right, in the first half. And, look, we came into this game wanting to be aggressive. And knowing that the type of team that we were playing, the offense that we were playing, we knew that, field goals weren't the way to go try to win this game. And yet, we didn't want to be reckless, but we felt like in both those situations, we felt like we had plays that we liked. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But, there's a mindset going into it to be aggressive.
Dennis, what went into the decision to take Alontae Taylor out of the game?
I just felt like, we needed to get Ugo in there and give him an opportunity to go play.
Can you talk a little bit about the decision for the onside kick toward the end of the game?
Yeah, I think it was, 3:53, something like that, to go in the game. We were out of timeouts. Honestly, we hadn't done a great job of stopping them up to that point. So I felt like, the onside kick was the right play. And we didn't get it. And so, we were going to have to stop them either way. So we went for the onside kick to try to get it and see if we couldn't go down and tie the game.
Dennis, with taking Alontae out, what did you see that he just wasn't doing well?
Well, look, I mean, I think, I think they got him a couple times with his eyes. And so I just felt like it was the right move for our team at that point.
It was like eye discipline and tackling is something that we've heard a few times in these conversations. Why is it that that's something that continuously?
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of discipline to do that. And I think there's been times where it's been good and some times where it hadn't been as good. And I think that's always been the challenge defensively, even on the, the best defenses I've been a part of that's always a challenge.
Dennis, when Stafford has time, how difficult is he to stop from finding it?
No, he's extremely difficult. I mean, look, I think he's playing at an extremely high level. Some of the throws that you see him make, I saw a lot on tape that he's making, pinpoint throws, off his back foot, under pressure, all those kinds of things. And look, he made a couple of really good throws today. He put it in a great spot. There was times where we had good coverage and they made plays, and there was times where we weren't in good enough coverage and they made plays. So, but we'll go back and look at the tape and see, where we could be better. But look, they were better than us tonight.
Dennis, this was another loss where the team fought back late, but it fell short. Why do you feel like it takes almost to where it's desperation mode to see things kind of moving with the offense?
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that our guys continue to fight. It's, can be a little frustrating that you'd like to think you could, do some of those things a little bit earlier in the game. And like I said, we moved the ball at times early in the game. We missed some opportunities and to keep some drives alive. So, but look, we lost on the road to a good team, and now we got to go regroup and get ready for Tampa Bay.
Dennis, what's sort of your message to the team now that you don't really control your own destiny?
Look, I think the biggest thing is we got 2 divisional games left to play, and so our focus is going to be on trying to win those 2 divisional games, and then we'll let everything play out from there.
With the onside kick, I know you said you have to stop them either way, but obviously that put them close to field goal range. Was it a tough decision?
Yeah, look, it was a conversation that we had, and I felt like trying to, taking our chances on trying to get the onside kick probably gave us the best opportunity to win, and we didn't get it.
Was it more that when you assess that, like you're looking at the defense and how they?
Yeah, we hadn't done a great job. We hadn't done a great job of stopping them, up to that point, So, and that's part of what the conversation was.
Was the intent with the onside kick to try to get a better bounce or anything? Was there anything about the execution of the onside kick that?
Well, look, they're challenging to get in our league now based on the way they make you line up and everything. I think we were kind of hoping they would kind of overshift a little bit more, and I think the ball kind of bounced off his chest a little bit. We just, we weren't quite there to make the play.
Was run blocking an issue today? It just seems like.
Yeah, well, we didn't run the ball well, and we need to run the ball better, because we can't just be, drop back passing team or play action passing team. We need to be able to run the football better.
What do you think you can do to make the run game more effective?
Well, look, we'll have to go back to work at it. You know what I mean? I wish there was magic formula, but we'll have to go back to work at it and see where we can be better.
That's how you feel like Derek plays today.
Yeah, I think overall I thought he played well. I think there's certainly some plays that he and we would probably like to have back. I don't know statistically how it finished up. I thought there was some plays that he made, and I thought there was probably a couple of plays in there that I felt like it wasn't where we needed to be. So yeah, I thought he played okay.
How did you think he handled the pressure today? It seems like they were pretty aggressive early.
Yeah, I think he was fine. I think he was fine. I think obviously there's sometimes again where maybe get through his progression a little bit quicker. Maybe hang in there a little bit more. There's a lot of things that go into it, but I thought overall, it was a solid game for him.
With getting Chris Olave back in the lineup, it seemed like there was still a conscious effort to continue to spread the ball around. I think there were still 8 receivers that still caught passes. Is that a little bit more what you want from the passing games?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to be able to spread the ball around, and really when you're at your best is when you can call a pass play and get through your progressions and get it to the right guy based on the coverage that we're seeing. You know, I mean, that's what efficient, offense is about. And so being able to spread the ball around, I think is good, yeah.
Chris limited in any way? It seemed like there's some moments there.
Yeah, look, I'd say he was certainly not 100%, but I was proud of him for coming in and battling, the way that he did. Made some plays, probably a couple plays again, like, that he'd like to have back and we need to have back. But I thought overall there was a lot of good things I saw from him.
Dennis, how much did momentum change giving up that late touchdown at the end of the second quarter?
Well, it obviously was a big play in the game, a big, momentum changer in the game. At the end of the second quarter when I made the decision to go for it. I wanted to be aggressive. Obviously they had 3 timeouts. So you punt the ball away and give it to them, hopefully backed up. But they still got 3 timeouts in their pocket. So, again, we weren't playing this game to try not to get beat. We were trying to play this game to win. So,
how did you feel with the execution of the drive right before that, the 2-minute drive that y'all had the opportunity for? There were still 2 timeouts, things like that. I don't know. We couldn't tell from where we were. Felt a little bit more kind of flustered in a way. Did you feel that, or was that just against the clock?
no, I think that was probably just more against the clock. I didn't feel that at all.
And this is a pretty important game, obviously, with huge playoff implications. How do you feel about the fact that the team, started out slow in such an important game, and now kind of goes from a 7% chance to win the playoff, to make the playoffs to a 20? My shorter question is, is it disappointing that the team went out and performed that way?
Yeah. We certainly would have liked to have, started the game better, played better, finished better, but we didn't. So, I'm not into the percentages, though. I'm really not. I'm just focused on, look, we let an opportunity go by, and so now we got to get ready for the things that we control, which is getting ready to go play Tampa.
Is it difficult to regroup after a disappointing
No,
loss like that?
we'll regroup. We'll regroup. We're still in this thing. All right, thanks.
No one wavering.
That was head coach Dennis Allen, and I think his point there at the end was we're still in this thing. So I think that's something that it is very important to focus on. Yeah. Regardless of how this game ended up, the Saints still have a chance at postseason play. They just really now have to take care of these last 2 games. Next up at the Bucs, it's going to be New Year's Eve in Tampa, and then back home against the Falcons. How do you? I mean, you've been in situations like this. How do you put this one behind you and flip your mindset?
I think all you can ask for as a player and as a team is this late in the season to kind of control your own destiny. And this team can still feel that way, because going into this game, you knew, you went out, you're going to be division champions. But you also knew you were trying to get the Rams out of that wild card spot, just in case you would fall to the Buccaneers.
Sure.
So you've eliminated the wild card. That's now your sole focus is on all we have to do is take care of business. We go to Tampa Bay. It's the playoffs. The playoffs are started right now. You beat Tampa Bay, you have a chance to win the NFC South. And, I mean, as a player, that's all you can ask for. There's tons of things you go back and if we would have taken care of business against Green Bay, if we would have done this, if we would have beat a Josh Dobbs-led Vikings, but you didn't, but you still have a chance to control. There's a lot of teams that are out of it and already making plans in January and February for trips. So just take care of your business, get rested up, and go beat a divisional opponent.
Yeah, and for the fans out there, we can put that behind us too and just focus on these next 2. Even tonight, we can move on pretty quickly, but before we do, what are some areas you'd like to see them address, clean up before they do have this last 2 games?
There are definitely things. I think you heard the frustration in Dennis's voice when they asked him about the run game, because that has been the one big thing. I know Derek's had inconsistencies, and so everyone always wants to point to the quarterback, or the defense has given up some runs in some games. But when you look at it, the team wasn't highly penalized tonight. They had one turnover. They're not beating themselves that way. It really comes down to, if you can't run the football and control the time of possession and control how a defense is playing you, and say, we're going to hand the ball off, now we're going to play action pass you, and keep them guessing. That's the one thing this team hasn't been able to do all year. So if they can find a way in this little mini-bye to fix the running game, because they did it with the red zone.
Right.
The red zone was abysmal, and they fixed that. Find a way to fix this running game and keep teams off balance.
Sure. Well, let's go back to the podium. We're going to hear from quarterback Derek Carr, who is going to be walking into the room shortly, so we're going to keep an eye on it. I've heard he's making his way, but not there yet. When you talk about the red zone, today, again, they're 1 of 1 in the red zone, so now they're 10 of 11 there in their last 11 trips, 10 touchdowns.
Yes.
That is something that has to feel good, look good, although you're not getting the result.
Yeah. And like tonight, that skewed a little bit because you had 2 explosive plays, so you didn't even need to get to the red zone, which helps. I'd much rather have the explosive plays. You don't even need to get to the red zone. But it's encouraging as a player when your coach comes and says, this is how we're going to fix this area. And they had a plan to fix the red zone, and they did it. They've done it for 3 or 4 games now, and it's encouraging because it gives you faith and trust in your coaching staff. And that goes a long way. When your coaches tell you this is how we're going to fix it, and it works, now you believe everything they say in other areas. And that's no different in how do we fix this run game.
How do you fix it?
Well, you have to get more than 2 yards per carry. I know that because it just doesn't add up with 4 downs. You're getting 8 yards. So to me, if you can't move people off the ball, double teaming guys and pushing them off the line of scrimmage and just changing the line of scrimmage, we were blessed that 4 or 5 years ago, when I think arguably we had the best offensive line in football with Terran Armstead and a young Ryan Gramczyk and all those guys, they were just moving people at will.
Yeah.
The line is not that same type of line. So I think you need to scheme some of these things. You need to get, like Dennis said, eye candy with McVay. You need to get motions, and you need to get schematically aggressive in getting linebackers to look at things that have nothing to do with them, and now you pop an easy run. So I think you have to scheme some of these runs because you don't have the guys who are moving the guys off the line of scrimmage right now.
I feel like I've been waiting all year for Alvin Kamara to break one.
Yeah.
And he is working so hard. He goes over 1,000 yards of scrimmage. I mean, he gets his 500th career reception today. He is putting in the work, and I just want to see him, get that payoff.
Absolutely. Because he is the most targeted running back in the NFL in the pass game. And so he's going to get his numbers that way. But every running back, yes, they want to catch the ball in the backfield, but every running back wants to line up, get a handoff, and run straight downhill right into a linebacker, juke a safety in the alley, and get some home run balls. Because Alvin still has that ability.
Yeah.
And I think when you're a player who's played a while and you're compared, he will always be compared to Christian McCaffrey because they were in the same draft. And they have the same identical career stat numbers. So you get competitive with each other. He's having success in San Francisco. So Alvin is still that type of player, but I think some of the run game schemes need to be addressed to allow him to get into those. You don't have to throw a screen pass to get him in the open. Get some of these toss plays on the outside and things like that.
They have been, I feel like, using running back Jamal Williams a little bit more over the past couple weeks. Is it just because his style is different, because he's more a downhill runner, to see if he's more effective?
I definitely think that has something to do with it. He's a little bit bigger back and more built down to get inside the tackles. And some of it could be, they're rotating a little bit, and Jamal will stay and do some of the pass blocking on third down where Alvin comes off. I know a lot of fans that drives them crazy. Why is Kamara not on the field at third down? And that usually means because he's not going on a pass route, and they want a bigger back to block the linebacker running downhill. And also, you don't want your franchise running back taking head-to-head collisions every single play with a linebacker coming straight downhill. So it's not, they don't think Alvin's good enough to be on the field on third down. It's really the type of play they're calling, and he's just going to be blocking anyway. But I would love to see them get him involved on the third down pass game.
Sure. Speaking of blocking and different players coming in and out, tight ends, Juwan Johnson gets another touchdown. He is a big player out there, but Foster Moreau is getting some time as well because he's a blocker. We didn't see Jimmy Graham tonight.
Jimmy Graham, that surprised me, and I really think we know Jimmy kind of fixed the red zone problems, but Jimmy also had a catch out in between the 20s. He can still do those things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like Derek Carr is approaching the podium now, so we'll see what the quarterback has to say.
Derek, obviously disappointing result. Just kind of your assessment, thoughts on how things went tonight.
Yeah, well, you gotta give credit to them always first. They beat us, and we did a great job of fighting back, but it wasn't enough. And so, proud of our guys for that always, with the way we executed at the end of the game in the second half. But obviously, losing game by 8 points, it hurts because you think about every single play. That what could have been, but it's tough. You got to tip your hat to them, to their coaching staff, to their players. And they did a great job.
In the half sequence, did you feel that was kind of a little bit rushed since you guys had 2 timeouts, or did it kind of play out the way you thought it would?
Yeah, we all feel better if Chris's shoe doesn't blow up, and we got to play there, and he made a great decision on the route, exactly what we talked about. He ran a great route, and then his shoe just rips apart, and it's like, dude, not the time, for that, and nothing he can do about it. But I think that then after that, you're trying to, make the play, make something happen, and both times on the 4th down, I love the aggressiveness. DA, was very clear on that to the team, and obviously against that offense, it's. You're not going to win a lot of games kicking field goals against them. You play them 10 times, you keep kicking field goals, it's going to be tough. And so we knew as offense we needed to execute, and there was just a couple. I mean, we had opportunities. There's a couple. The second one I had to get it out quick and tried to guess, where he was going to be, and then the first one they just got in there. Chris ran a great route, and we would have had that one, but they made a play.
Derek, how do you feel like the offensive line held up against the pressure tonight?
Well, we knew it was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be tough. More so than just Aaron and what he's able to do by himself physically. They make it tough schematically because they know certain things you have to do without getting obviously all into it to make it hard on other parts of your protection. And they did. They made it tough at times, but I thought our guys fought and did a great job of trying to limit as best they could. And really in the second half fought really well. That's a tough team to go 2-minute kind of tempo against because of what they can do up front. And our O-line kept us in the game, and we were able to make plays for them.
Yeah, obviously tough running the ball tonight. Why do you think they were so effective in taking that away?
Yeah, the play actions were good, and so usually when that's good, you would say the runs. It's hard for me to tell because I'm turning my back every time. That would be better for those guys to talk about. But after I watch the film, we'll see. But they did. They made it tough. You got to give credit to their front. They did a good job in certain areas and certain things, but I also thought our guys did good too.
The third down efficiency tonight, was that how would you describe the effort there? I think you started 2 for 8 there before kind of rallying a bit at the end.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough at the beginning. There was a couple plays where we were going to have to make some corrections because I was expecting one thing and we got another. But these are the positive is we've been able to talk about things and then get on the same page and do it better. So some things came up. Something came up today that hadn't happened to us yet, and you're like, why today? But it did, and we'll talk about that because then we could have had another one there. I think about, there was another one. Again, simple correction to make. Just sucks that, with only 3 games left, now we got to fix it now. But we'll be positive about that. But I thought we did a good job of the plan. We loved, and so I thought we got going. Started picking them up. We were close again on a couple others, but at the beginning it was not good enough. And that's just simple. It wasn't good enough by us as players.
And Derek, you all no longer control your own destiny, but
yeah.
What's kind of mindset going to these last 2 games?
It's playoff mentality. That's been our mentality, but really win or go home kind of thing. And so thankful to be playing meaningful games in December, but we have to do our business. We can't worry about. Again, I've been in those scenarios. We had 1% chance and all that kind of stuff. I've lived that world, and all you can focus on is what you can control, no matter how tough it is, no matter how much you want to watch everyone else, like it really doesn't matter at this point for us. Like we have to win the last two. You know, we have to win our games. It's going to be tough because it's two teams that have beat us, and so you know, hopefully, you know, everyone's mindset, you know, get some rest, spend time, you know, on Christmas with their families. You know, that's always good for your heart and for your mentals, as Money would say. And you know, you just got to keep pushing forward. You know, after that, you know, Tuesday we're coming in and we got to go. And so I'll be studying on my off time and getting ready for these two games for sure because they're big for us.
Derek, following back up on Lou's question, asking about third down, you mentioned that something had came up in the game and having to fix something in real time. What's the challenge in that, and can you just share what that maybe, you know, not what it was, but around it? Yeah.
You know, I'm glad you know. I wouldn't, you know, say it by now, and I'm sorry that doesn't help you too much. But you know, it came up, and you know, it's like, dang, we haven't talked about that, you know, and so, you know, when you haven't talked about it, it's a little frustrating. But it gave us an opportunity to say, okay, hey, I see, you know, we're playing the game. I see what you're feeling, all that. But if I'm not expecting it, if we haven't talked about it, it's kind of tough for me to make that decision and cut it loose, especially with not knowing what's coming and certain things in the play. So, you know, we got better from it, and we'll continue to grow. But, you know, it's just hard and frustrating when it happens like this late in the year because it's like, dang, like, you know, we needed that one. And so it makes it hard. But, you know, man, I'll be positive and keep pushing, keep fighting.
Speaking of aggressiveness, like you guys like came very close to having something with Shaheed there, like the very end of the first half.
Yeah.
Is that just like, did you expect him to go to bend that toward the sideline on that, or was it just?
Yeah, well, honestly, 99 was in the backfield immediately, and I don't know what happened, so I'm not trying to say why or anything like that. I just, he was there, and I saw AK going, so I had to step up, and as I was getting hit by someone else, I had to throw it way earlier than I wanted to, and so, yeah, like if I threw it to where I expected, but that's not on Shaheed either, because you know, when he's running the route, he sees it, and we've talked about what he did, but I just didn't have the time to see that, be able to read that out.
Did your arm get hit on the interception?
Yeah, but I was trying to throw it over his head, you know, seeing him drop, and I was trying to throw it back over his head, but I just didn't get enough on it.
Derek, you mentioned loving to see the fight. This is another loss where you guys get close in the end. Is it frustrating, or why does it feel like it maybe takes until it's desperation mode for the offense to finally get quick enough in games like this?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I felt like for a few weeks here now, you know, minus a few times, but like I really felt like we've been doing a good job. You know, we've been moving the ball, we've been doing things. Even today, I thought we were moving the heck out of the ball. We had a lot of explosives in the pass game. We felt very confident with all that, and that felt good. But the execution of critical situations wasn't there, and it takes offensive football. It takes all 11. You know, it takes all 11, and that's frustrating. Yes, I am human. Like that does, you know, anger me, and but I'm trying my best to be positive and keep pushing forward because that's all I know to do. Because that's what's going to solve the problem. So. Also at the end of games, like you know, Coach Gruden always told me, he said, we're never out of a game. We keep that right arm in it. You know, so I've always just that mentality. You know, you just, as a quarterback, you're like, I kept telling our guys, keep believing, we're gonna win. We're gonna win. Boom, we'd score. Boom, we'd score. Then you felt the belief rise. But we didn't. We just ran out of time.
Derek, how much of a momentum change was that? Not making it on fourth down there with under 2 minutes left, and then they come down and score right before half.
You're exactly right. It was huge. Yeah, it was, and it hurts. You know, it's hard. And again, you know, when we knew we were going to be aggressive in the game. Da was very clear, you know, with that, and especially, you know, laying out the plan. Hey, if they're doing this and it's going like this, and we got to be aggressive. You know, you can't beat these guys kicking field goals. They're just too good. You know, they're Super Bowl champions. You know, and they still got a lot of their guys. And so, you know, we knew that. We just felt bad that as an offense we couldn't, you know, execute that for them because then it makes it hard, momentum-wise and on the defense, and we don't ever want to put them in that position.
When you can't get the run game going like today, we got, you know, stopped up. How does that make you like the passing game more difficult?
Yeah, it makes it difficult, especially with 99 over there, especially when he knows, you got to throw it. That makes it difficult on protection calls because now they can do certain things because they know you're doing things for him, and it absolutely makes it difficult, but I thought we threw it well. I thought our guys, for the most part, were where they needed to be. It wasn't perfect, but it definitely, to answer that part, it definitely makes it hard for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to ramble on, but it definitely does, stress things, especially when you got a guy like that over there.
And, obviously late in the game with the big deficit, you had to throw it. But early in the game, do you feel like things were too one-dimensional?
No, I mean, I loved our play action stuff. I think we had I can't remember off the top of my head, like 4 explosives, in the first half, just play actions. And, that's the threat of, the way we've been running it. That's the threat, when I talked about earlier this week, when I turned my back and they got to make decisions and things like that, and guys are winning. I thought that was a big part. I thought that was a good part for us, honestly. But I think it's hard for a play caller. He calls one and it's 2nd 10. It's not a lot of calls that it makes it easy. It's not efficient. So we'll look at that. Again, I'm turning my back to those, so I don't know what was going on. But we'll look at it and try and correct these things for these last 2.
Along the line of play calls, was there just not a whole lot of things in place for Jimmy Graham today? Didn't see a lot of him. Yeah,
there was a couple of times where he could have got it in certain looks, certain coverages, or matchups, ended up getting the ball to somebody else. And so that there was definitely a plan in place for him. So I wouldn't say that it was like that nothing was there for him. It was just certain looks that the ball just happened to go to other people. Good. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
That was quarterback Derek Carr. Scott, anything that he said that we haven't touched on that stood out to you?
No, I think the last question, I kind of like to listen about the Jimmy Graham part. I mean, there was obviously a plan for Jimmy.
It's funny because we were just talking about that before he started.
And I'm sure a lot of people were asking that question, especially after the last couple of weeks at Jimmy, like the red zone problem solver, and Jimmy Graham's a fan favorite. Third down, he's a fan favorite. And I really think there's 3 really good tight ends on this team. I would like to see the Saints run more of 13 personnel with 3 tight ends and flex Jimmy and Juwan out and leave Foster in line to block. It presents a lot of problems to a defense to match up against those type of body types. But no, I think as a player, there's a lot of questions you want answered in the media, and I know the media hates when players give the answer like we'll look at it on film, but you would be shocked at how much stuff you don't notice during a game. Like you don't even notice anything that's going on until you watch it on tape and see what a fan and media members are saying. So I understand that you don't like that answer, but it really is. There's a lot you have to learn from watching tape.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot more on the field than where you're looking and what your responsibility is. Before we kind of close this one out, we do have Tampa up next. What have you seen from them that the Saints really need to be aware of?
Yeah. Well, they've really kind of been flying under the radar. A lot of people thought it was going to be Saints and Falcons, and then the Falcons dropped one to the Bears, and now they have their own quarterback issues. And that whole time everybody was talking about the Saints and the Falcons, the Buccaneers were just starting to play their best football. And Baker Mayfield played outstanding last week. And earlier I misspoke and I said the Saints control their own destiny. I think it's because in my mind I've already manifested the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to beat the Buccaneers. So
yes,
I do believe that will happen, but it's all about taking care of business. Regardless of what happens, hopefully Jacksonville does take care of that. But it's going to be a tough game on the road, divisional opponent. But if there's a little bit of a silver lining here, you get the mini bye. Tampa Bay does not get that mini bye. You get a few more days of rest. You should be the healthier team going into that game on the road and the biggest game of the year for you.
It's a short trip. They've played well there historically. And we heard Carr say that it's going to be nice to be able to get some extra time to rest, get healthy, look at some things, and spend some time with the family before you really have to lock in for these last 2 games. Fortunately, it was a 30-22 loss to the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday night. But the Saints have 2 more left, and they still have an opportunity for postseason play. For John DeShazier, who is making his way to the plane and back here to New Orleans, Scott Shanle and myself, Erin Summers, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Saints postgame show, and have a really happy holiday weekend. Be healthy and enjoy the time, and we'll be back with you again next week right here on NewOrleansSaints.com.